So how do I even begin to make basic algebra into a fun platformer? Although I've been working on 2 new environments and 2 new mechanics, it wouldn't be as impactful if not for something so basic yet so fundamental in classic game design, and that is risk versus reward. So here's the gist of the core mechanics and controls of Starhead. It has the classic platforming elements like Mario, but with a twist. You can throw your head and teleport to it and call it back to your body. Not only that, you have a full 360-degree range of where to aim and throw. So it's sort of like Mario Odyssey, but your hat is an Angry Bird. But with a little bit of Crash Bandicoot, since you do hit a lot of these crates. Which, by the way, is super satisfying to break. Do you mind?
Oh, my bad. My dog saw the mailman. Please, continue.
Not only do the crates add to the score, which determines how much health you get for the boss level, it also adds to the timer of which how long your head can be away from its body. The biggest problem with this is that there were times where your body and head could go off screen and then you suddenly die for whatever reason. I've worked closely with the time limit your head can be free with the max scale the camera can go. That way the camera prevents scaling itself out of existence and you can actually see what you're doing. I even added in this electrical current that appears whenever the head hits the threshold of when the camera is going to scale. But if you can teleport, why not just throw your head and never platform again? When your head is detached, your body has higher mobility. That means jumping higher, running faster, and it's even easier to juggle your head, which is something I like to do a lot. In terms of game design, the risk and rewards may depend on your playstyle. Let's say you're a speedrunner, then you would want to juggle and teleport your head constantly, but without some skill, you would risk death and time loss. If you are more of a completionist, maybe you would try to get as many orbs and score points as possible to get the max health on the boss. And this helps me have a base on which to draw ideas from to challenge these different playstyles. But what does this have to do with boring concepts like the axes and vectors of a graph? For that, I'm going to introduce By taking these different examples of elasticity, I've gamified them into special powers to make them more interesting. It wouldn't be as exciting if you had the same kind of ball with different bounciness to it. We had to add a little bit of that game feel, that game essence, that game, that touch. And in this way, we can make them more compatible with our other game mechanics.
I think he's making these kind of games because he feels that math gets a bad rep, but because the education system just presents it in a very kind of boring way. I think that's what this guy is like trying to prove. It's like, it doesn't have to be that way. But yeah, you know.
I call them X and Y canon, simply because I haven't thought of a better name yet, and that's just what I'm calling them on my project files and such. They shoot out bullets, either the X and Y symbol. These bullets only follow that axis. This is a way to kind of challenge your reaction time. So unlike your head, which breaks some of the laws of physics but still keeps its rules of elasticity and restitution, these forego physics almost entirely just to limit itself on 2 axes. And as the intention isn't necessarily to simulate physics here, but rather it's to familiarize with how you can think of things in terms of a grid or an axis. But that's not all, as you also have the option to deal with these depending on what power-up you have. The green power-up is usually the most favorite among playtesters, so wouldn't it be interesting if a mechanic threatened its evasive advantages, forcing the player to interact with it differently? That is why if the head with this power-up collides with the cannon, it does not really affect the cannon at all. It more or less just treats it as a wall and can act as a hazard and push you into something that's hazardous that could damage you. As for the unstoppable power-up, there is minimal risk since the head just goes through these bullets and destroys them instantly. However, if you are less mobile, I could design this power-up in harder to reach places to reward players for having this advantage. The default red power-up, however, can deflect, an idea I've always wanted to introduce since the boss I made last year. But I do want to reward players by taking the risk for alternative paths or reward, which is why I would force you to deflect bullets to break crates unless I've introduced those enough to where you get a good bit of practice. So this mechanic introduces physics-defying bullets that follow the axis of a graph, and it's both a platforming tool and a threat to the player. Okay, this may not be the first platform, but I don't think it's been done in this way, and it would take time for players to get used to these controls. But how do I ease you into this intensity?
You know, for someone that's trying to like make math fun, this is very like monotone. So you know what? I'm going to do you guys a favor.
This is where the elevator platform comes in, and it is first introduced in the early game as a way to get players used to platforming and the control. Also showcasing vectors, but a lot of the visual aspects of it has still yet to be polished. It's more of a visual display of an abstract idea, and there's a version of it that moves on its own, and there's a version of it where it only activates once you stand in it for a good amount of time. It has a little glowy hologram visual above it that kind of hides behind it once you stand on it long enough to signal activation. Unlike a level in the mid-game, the early game will focus more on one power-up at a time. That being said, this zone won't be the first level, as it introduces the purple unstoppable mechanic and eventually combines it with the elevator to further increase the risk and reward, but you'd have to utilize both at the same time. There are definitely ways to make this mechanic more in-depth and threatening, but at the moment it's still undercooked, as I still need to polish some of the additional things I built around it that I haven't gotten to yet because I was waiting to do that in conjunction with repolishing the boss. I figured that it would get tiring to look at these parallax backgrounds for too long, so I started working on polishing up the tile maps. Yeah, I wanted to create an interior background to not only just give a little bit of variety, but also add more verticalness, because when I made the concept art of this level, I didn't consider how vertical or how big it should be. And so instead, I decided to turn them into kind of rooms. But I also wanted to add in like some more like moving objects in the background, add more depth and atmosphere. There's definitely some more things to add upon this, but I do like where it's at right now. Added in this glow thing that kind of moves up in the background, and the interior sections add a little bit more flair. It's nice to finally see this level come together and fit the ideal vision of what I want. So we have a mechanic that introduces vectors in a passive way, and we have a new enemy type and hazard that moderately challenges the player's controls and understanding of the game by making that rule based on axes of a graph, using risk versus reward.
Alright guys, I'm just going to break character. The ideas behind this game is really just about like breaking that bad first impression a lot of us will get with like math as a subject, simply because how it's presented to us in a classroom. Unless you're like one of the lucky people who had like really creative teachers, or you just happen to be that person that's just good at math, and then you see it in a certain way where it is kind of like a game to you, but it's not like that for everyone else. I don't know, like not other people see it as like a creative artistic tool, and that kind of sucks, because we all have to deal with this. Like, it's in everything we do in life, but most of us would just think of it as like crunching numbers or some boring thing we have to do, not really something that like, could it be something more? I don't know. Well, that's my little rant.
Oh, almost had me there. Yeah, you can't touch me. You can't touch me. Oh, okay, we're gonna try that again. Oh, all right, guys, we got it now. Oh, damn. Come on, hit the thing. Hit the thing. Yeah. We got the right power up. We're gonna break those boxes and then jump through that whole thing. And yeah, look at that. Okay. I'm out of. Okay, we got it. Look at that. And that's how it's done, guys. That's how. Oh, my bad. You can do this, okay? So don't let my failures discourage you. We got it this time. Look. See, I'm gonna hit this. See, you don't even have to hit the whole thing. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. Yeah, I did that on purpose. That's just to show you, there's different ways of playing this game. So, yeah.